Hey guys, I just got home from my very first revival. I have lots and lots of feelings. I don't necessarily know that I'm ready to articulate them at this moment, but I'm still sort of processing. I've got to turn in, um, what's called a thick description for Tuesday, which is, it's like 5 or so pages in which you just it is what it sounds like. You describe what you experienced. You describe the environment primarily. Um, so this was just my attending this revival was an exercise for a bigger project that's coming up, just to get familiar with the process of doing ethnography. And honestly, I kind of had my mind blown. I've got a lot to think about in terms of the ethics of conducting ethnography, just because there are a lot of moments where you, and when I say you, I mean me, of course, because this is me talking, but I found myself repeatedly put in this place where I was having to contemplate exactly how honest I wanted to be with the people around me, just because, generally speaking, honesty is how this rolls out. When you undergo any sort of ethnography, there's a method to it, and generally there's lots of proposal writing, and you have to get approval to do certain things. You can't just wander in and attend a whole bunch of services and conduct interviews and publish something and have that be okay. Of course you can, but when we're talking about the academy, an organized academic setting, there are standards, and part of those standards involve ethics, and there are decisions to be made in terms of how much you want to disclose to the people you're studying, and it doesn't mean that being honest with them wouldn't necessarily entail me being like, "Hey guys, I'm a witch. Ask me how." Okay, that's not the level of honesty I'm talking about. I'm talking more about, just by virtue of being there are people around me who I'm interacting with, who I'm going to be interacting with on a regular basis, who are going to, just by virtue of my being there, make assumptions about me. So when I'm engaged in conversations, and I'm not talking interviews or anything like that, but just casual conversations, like conversations with people when I was waiting in line in order to get into the place, and everyone's just getting to know each other, and they ask you things like, "Oh, well, what do you study in school?" And I cannot tell them religious studies without begging further questions. And at some point, those questions potentially become too personal or become too revealing. And I'm still figuring out exactly where that line should be. But anyway, I'm not trying to philosophize so much in this video, but it's given me a whole lot to think about. Now, as for the revival itself, this is really, really intense. I've been to church several times before, various kinds of churches, primarily Protestant, evangelical, and I speak the language well enough. Generally speaking, I know what I'm looking at, and I know what to expect from people. And this held true to my expectations, just on a much, much larger scale. To give you an idea, this was a 12-night long revival series in which this particular church organized for pastors from all over the country, very famous pastors, to come and do sermons, and each night belonged to a different pastor. And there are people who traveled from all over the country to go to this thing, and there were people who camped out in the parking lot to make sure that they would just be able to be in the church. It was standing room, and they were shuttling people to satellite churches so that they could watch the whole thing projected onto screens. And I was basically lucky that I made it into the building. and got a chair, no less. I mean, we're talking thousands of people. It was a rock concert, essentially. It was really intense. It was like Justin Bieber came to town or something. Sorry. Anyway, just so many people. And anyway, to give you an idea about what I'm talking about, I was given a Bible. It's New International Version, NIV. I own a lot of Bibles, guys. I own stupid numbers of Bibles, and I don't know. Most pagans, this is where I'm somewhat of an anomaly, but I really, really enjoy reading the Bible, and I have to do it a lot because of what I do. And anyway, so I was actually really excited. And this particular edition, it's a nicer edition. I mean, this is not like that cheap Gideon Bible that they give you on college campuses that falls apart the next week. This is like faux leather, gold-edged, Christ's words in red. I mean, it's the kind of thing where if you went to Barnes & Noble and bought it, it'd probably be $20. And it came in a fancy-ass box. And it came with a CD of worship music. And it came with instructions on what I can do next in my quest for Christ. And it came with a journal-ish kind of thing for when I read the book of John, which I'm not going to do. And I got another CD of worship music because I was a first-time guest and therefore a VIP. And anyway, my point is just that a lot of money went into this, and this was a free event, okay? I mean, hundreds of people just showing up, and I don't know, it's really intense. And I spent a lot of time sitting there thinking, I wonder how much just one night of this costs. And just the fact that they did it 12 nights consecutively, just unbelievable. And then when we got out of the service, which was, I guess, about 2 hours long, which is really short when you consider that there were people who'd been waiting in the parking lot for 9 or 10 hours. I was there. The whole thing started, they opened the doors at 4 for a service that started at 5 and let out at 7. I arrived at 2, okay? And anyway, it was raining. It was pouring down rain, and the second I got out of my car, I'd never been to this place before, I was kind of lost, and I'm there by myself, which is scary. And I get out of my car, and immediately I've got a volunteer from the church standing over me with an umbrella. He gives me the umbrella so that when I'm standing in line, I have an umbrella. And I don't know, like that was really kind, because it was pouring, and it was a big, nice umbrella with the church's logo on it, and there were people there sharing food, and someone offered me a hamburger, which was nice, and there were cookies, and there was one girl who was giving people friendship bracelets, and it was like Woodstock without the drugs, presumably. And then when we got in, the pastor had bought like Chick-fil-A for everyone. And again, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people. So 7 o'clock, we all get out and people are, sweaty and crying and, filled with the Spirit. And we're walking out and people are literally handing you sandwiches from Chick-fil-A, and bottles of water. This is not like anything else in my life. I don't have anything else to compare this to. Imagine going to a huge rock concert in which everyone was nice to you, and you could leave your purse in your seat and go to the bathroom and know that nobody was going to rob you. I can't even think of anything else that it's like. But anyway, really, really intense. And I met a lot of really interesting people. And I'm committed to this. I'm going to be going back. But anyway, I'm still formulating what I think of this whole thing. Obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious. I don't agree with them politically. I don't agree with them in terms of a lot of their religious tenets. I'm not one of those people who subscribes to the idea that all religions are equally correct and we're all going to the same place. I don't buy that. I think some people are just wrong. Okay, and I'm not going to be specific about particular things. Although, if you've watched all of my videos, or you could probably guess some of the things that bother me. But anyway, it was different, and I have no words. So there you are. But I wanted to make a video and show you my fun new Bible. I'm really excited about this. Like, disproportionately excited. Like, I must be stopped. Okay, anyway, tomorrow I will post a video about my giveaway. And yeah, so you'll have to wait. I'm sorry, I'm still processing this revival thing, so I'm not really functioning at this point. But hope everyone is having a good night.